what we're going to do is we're going to examine a rotation as a double reflection. So if you don't have anything that can draw the circle and you can figure out all that stuff with it, it's okay, because you don't really need it. What you'll get is, let's say you have R, and there's your A, and what we want to do is we want to create a rotation but in order to actually do the rotation itself, what we're going to do is a reflection, a double reflection. Let's say we want to go 80 degrees clockwise again. Now, the double rotation is, what we're going to end up doing is, we'll need two lines. Through R, that have half the angle of rotation between them. So what's the angle of rotation? Well, it's 80 degrees. So I want to multiply that by 1/2. So what's 1/2 of 80 degrees? 40 degrees. So what I want to do is I want to create two lines that are 40 degrees apart. But both of those lines have to go through R. Now here's the neat thing. It doesn't matter where you put them as long as you're going in the direction that you need to go to. Since we're going to the right, I'm going to put one right here. And I'll call that L1. And how many degrees do I need between L1 and L2? 40 degrees. So I'm going to take the paper. Remember, you don't have a piece of tape on the paper. It's not glued to your desk, so you can move it around. And I want to create a 40 degree angle. So I'm going to put this guy right here. And 40 degrees is right over here. So that's 40 degrees. Now what I want to do is I want to go through and I want to reflect through L1 first. And then whatever I get from my pre-image here, I want to go through this one second. Now, we're going to end up using this for reflections. If you have a nice perpendicular maker, you can do that. But this is just as easy. We just put this, you put your beveled edge on the line, you look through here, and I got my A prime. Now I need to reflect that through the second angle. So I'm going to use a blue to get my answer here. So I go through here and I reflect this. Well, actually this one's kind of tough because it's so close to the line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up doing this instead. Since these marks are perpendicular, if I put the line on here and I make sure that this mark is straight with this line, and since I'm pretty close, I know that this part right here is going to be perpendicular to the red line because I put it straight with one of the measuring marks here. Now, it goes 1, 2, it looks like 2.5 little tick marks there, 2.5 millimeters. So I'm going to go 2.5, 1, 2.5. And I'll get a double prime there. Does that look about right? Yeah. Remember, when we're doing this by hand, there's always a little bit of error that goes into play here. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we got the 90 degrees that we wanted to. So, if I draw the line from R to A, and then R to A double prime, and then I measure the angle, what's the measurement? Did I get my 80 degrees? Yeah, pretty close. If I extended that up a little bit, looks like it hits the 80 degree mark. So, since this was an 80 degree translation, I got my 80 degrees right here. So the key is that if you want to do a double reflection, so for the double reflection, create two lines through R that have half the angle of rotation between them. Now, when you reflect through the two lines, you will get your double rotation. If we had gone through this one first, we'd end up down here. Because this guy would have been, if we had gone through the second line first, let's see what we'd have gotten. 3. Yeah, we would have ended up way down here. Guess what this angle would have been? $80, but in which direction? Yeah, counterclockwise. So we can say this. If you go through, which I mean reflect, the first line, which is closest, then the second, you end up on the correct side. And if you go through the second line, then the first, you end up on the other side. And in this case, it was the correct side was clockwise. The other side, the incorrect side for this rotation, was counterclockwise. But the cool thing about the double reflection is, I'll call this A triple prime. And this still was 80 degrees. It just went in a different direction. So if we go through L1 and L2, we'll end up where we need to go. If we go through L2 to L1, this is A through L2 through L1, or L1 and L2, we're in good shape. This was A through L2 through L1. And that's just basically going the opposite direction in this case. We go through this one first and then this one. And so, I mean, it ends up saying, if I go counterclockwise, if I'm going clockwise, I'm going to go through this guy first and then this guy second, which ended up being this way instead. If I wanted to end up over here, I'm going to go through this one first and then through this guy second, and that's going to get me where I need to go. So everything is dependent on which direction you want to go. If I want to go clockwise, I'm going to go in the clockwise direction, and I'm going to go through that line, then that line. If I'm going to go through the other side, I'm going to go through this line and this line. So you got to pick your side, you got to pick your direction, and then just go through the line, go through the closest one first, then the farthest one second. Here you're going to go through if we wanted to end up on this side of it to the left, go through this one, then this one. Now, it doesn't matter if you end up in a coordinate plane. It doesn't matter if you end up anywhere else. A lot of times when you're in a coordinate plane, your point of rotation is going to be your origin. And just one really, really quick thing with this. But first off, questions on that. Does that make sense? Everybody's okay with the double reflection?